Hey guys, James again with tfbtv, and I'm really excited because this is going to be the first torture test I do with this new system I developed. I call it the Somewhat Realistic Pistol Evaluation, or the SORPI. So the gun's clean right now, and we're going to do 50 rounds of Wolf steel case ammunition first to get the gun kind of dirty. Then we're going to run 100 rounds of hollow point 9mm ammunition from Ventura Munitions through it. To me, that's very realistic, right? You're going to be shooting hollow point rounds through a defensive pistol, and so you want to know if it's going to function. If you fire 100 hollow point rounds, you hope all 100 are going to go through. Then we're going to shoot 50 rounds of ball ammunition with no lubrication. I'm going to take non-chlorinated brake cleaner, blast the gun out. It's going to be totally unlubricated, and we'll see if it can run 50 rounds. Now, to talk about the last 50 rounds, we're going to drop this gun in water for 15 seconds. Then we're going to take it out, and we're going to shoot 25 rounds through it. Finally, the last test is the sand test. I built a dust chamber. I was messing around with it yesterday, and I killed my P11. My P11 is dead. It can't fire more than one round at a time right now. Wait. There we go. Come on, trigger, reset. Come on. So the last 25 rounds on the sand test are going to be no joke. But again, the whole goal of this is for it to be somewhat realistic. Realistically, you want to be able to shoot 100 rounds of hollow point through your gun, even when it's a little bit dirty. Realistically, if your gun gets wet or if you drop it in water, you want it to be able to shoot whenever you retrieve it. And realistically, if you get some dust or sand in the action of the gun, if you drop it in the sand, if you leave it outside, you want it also to be able to function through that. In any event, enough talking. Glock Gen 5 is going to be the first subject for the SORPI. Let's give it a shot. All right, guys, we're going to warm things up with 50 rounds of Wolf. Well, nothing. I mean, but you expect that from the Glock. 50 rounds of Wolf, no big deal. Now let's get 100 rounds of hollow point 9mm, 124 grain. I didn't know it was possible to feel bad for an inanimate object, but I'm really worried about this Glock right now. You guys see this? Smoking a little bit. Smoking a lot of it. 2 more mags to go. There we go. 100 rounds of hollow point, 50 rounds of Wolf. So I'm taking all the lube out of this gun, then we're gonna fire 50 rounds of 147 grain ball ammunition. Periodically you have guns that aren't so good at 147 grain, so I think it's important to include that in the test as well. You'll notice in the SORPI we use all the common grain weights. We've got 115 grain Wolf, 124 grain hollow points, and then 147 grain ball point. So we pretty much touch on every single bullet weight, which I think is also very important if you're doing a somewhat realistic pistol evaluation. All right, this Gen 5 Glock is completely dry, no lubrication, 50 rounds of 147 grain Ventura munitions. All right, guys, there it is. So that's 200 rounds down. To recap, we've done 50 rounds of Wolf, 100 rounds of 124 grain hollow point ammunition. Then we took all the lube out and we just shot 50 rounds of 147 grain completely dry. So now time to go for a swim. So a quick word about the mechanics of the submersion test. A magazine is an essential component of a firearm. So I had kind of battled between whether or not I was going to do these last two tests, the water test and the sand test, if I was going to do them with the magazine in the gun, and I decided yes, because if we're going to be somewhat realistic, the mag's going to be in the gun. Let's see what happens whenever you have the mag in the gun. Now, that said, we're only going to do 10 rounds for the mag in the gun in the hazard. So I'm going to load this Glock with 10 rounds of 147 grain ball, drop it in the water for 15 seconds. Then it's going to have a backup magazine with 15 rounds. That mag's going to be dry. I figure that's the fairest way to balance both the hazard and, you know, if you can get a dry mag and get it back into the action, you're testing not only the magazine, but the gun itself. I figure that's the fairest compromise, so that's what we're gonna do. Okay, it's been in here for 15 seconds. I'm gonna make sure there's no water in the bore so I don't die. All right, here we go. There's 10 down. All right, guys, so far in the test, the Glock has been 100%. It hasn't messed anything up. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna lube it back to factory spec, and then we're gonna put it in the homemade ghetto ass dust machine and see if it kills the Glock the same way it killed the Kel-Tec P11. All right, so here's how we're gonna do this. Half cup of sand. I'm gonna distribute that. You can see the half cup of sand distributed evenly along the right side of the container where the blower is going to be. Remember, this is SoarPie 1.0. I'll probably come up with something cooler than this, but we're putting air into this chamber, so we want to make sure that it can get out. Easy solution is a bungee cord and a cotton t-shirt. This worked perfectly because it would keep the sand in, but it would let the air out. So is this the dumbest thing you've ever seen yet? All right, so we've got our 10 and our 15 round magazine. Remember, the 10 round magazine is going in with the gun. The gun's been lubed back to spec. One in the chamber. We're going to put it lengthwise with ejection port facing up on the opposite side of the sand. This blower has 6 levels. We're going to do level 4 for 10 seconds. 10 seconds, level 4, here we go. You can see there's a lot of space for the sand to get inside of the action. Let's see what happened. This is bad. Well, there you have it, guys. Sword pie number 1, the Glock, almost a perfect score. Now I say almost because if you go back and rewatch the video, you'll see that on that second trigger pull, I thought this guy was toast. The trigger wasn't resetting, and I think that's the main problem with the sand is when it gets into your trigger group, it really creates a problem. All right, so that was sword pie number 1. What'd you guys think? I was pretty impressed. Now that was only a 250 round job, but it's not easy. Now it's not incredibly difficult either. It isn't like we're dragging it through the mud or baking it in a fudge brownie or whatever in the hell. You're removing the lubrication, you're firing hollow points, you're firing back to back to back to back, you're firing steel cased ammunition that sucks through it, submerging it in water, shooting it, and finally hitting it with sand, and a minute on the sand. That sand is really, really tough. And right now we're talking about the sword pie 1.0. I kind of like it. If you guys like it, let me know in the comments, and we'll stick with the formula. But if I had to change one thing, I think I would change the sand aspect, because when that stuff gets in a gun, it is game over. And that really, really fine sand, it's fine enough to get into every crevice, but it's coarse enough that once it gets in there, it really screws everything up. So does the Glock 17 Gen 5 get a perfect score on sword pie number 1 version 1.0? No, I think I've got to deduct at least 1 point for the Glock 17. That initial shot after being exposed to the dust chamber, it was slow to reset. It wasn't a failure to feed, it wasn't a failure to eject, and just a split second later, it was back in the fight and ready to shoot. But that was a malfunction. So did it get a perfect score? No, but pretty damn close, and I bet it's gonna be the score to beat. So I guess the point is, I know that there are gonna be guns that can fail this test, and looking at the Glock, I know there are going to be guns that can pass this test. It's really figuring out everything in between that's gonna be really fun with the sword pie. Please, guys, your feedback's so important, so let me know in the comments what you think, or if there's anything that should be tweaked. Thank you to Ventura Munitions for sending all the ammo. Thank you guys, subscribers, viewers, all of you. I'll see you next week.